Welcome in. It is day 301, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today, we're going to be going over another game that I played a boatload of on Board Game Arena. Now, it was not actually the location that I learned about the game. Years and years ago, almost a decade ago at this point, I had an original board game group that I used to play with, and I was introduced to the game there, and we played it a bunch. And then after moving on to new company, new location for where I was living, I ended up not being able to join that group anymore. I slowly found a new group, and it just wasn't a game we had until COVID hit. We went on to Board Game Arena, and Board Game Arena reintroduced us to it. Well, we played it there, and then we managed to get it in person again. And it's just one of those games that, despite me not being a racing fan, and I mean, I don't like to watch racing, I don't like to play racing video games, the exception of Mario Kart, which to be fair is more like a war racing game, and I'm just not normally into a racing style board game. This one just gets me. The game is called Downforce. Now in Downforce, the idea is that you start the game off with so much money, and you're going to bid. So you bid your money on whichever car pops up. Now you've already been dealt a hand of cards. The cards are going to give you a general sense of what you can do. Now this game is interesting, as if there are multiple colors on a card, you have to move those cars. So it's not like you have the option to say, oh, I'm only going to move red. What it'll do is, it'll list so many cars, they'll be given in order, and they'll be given a number. And you'll know based on these cars, okay, I have a lot of yellow, so yellow might be a car I want. But you'll also might notice that, well, yellow comes in pretty low on this. You know, I have a big card here that yellow is going to technically move on, but yellow's the fifth card to move out of 6. And I have all 6 cars here, so I'm not really doing much. The others are moving faster than it in first. So you have to kind of generally figure out that. Now, when you pick a car, you do get with it a solo movement card that's pretty big. I believe it's 6 spaces. So you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Now, based on number of players, there'll be a cutoff. So, for instance, if you're playing a 5-player game, you can have one player own 2 cars. So the instant somebody owns 2 cars, they're knocked out. And now going forward, every time somebody buys a car, it's getting easier and easier for them, people who haven't gotten a car yet, to get it cheap. Because if you're the last person left and everybody else has gotten their car, you just get your car for essentially $100 or whatever the lowest marker of the bill is. So you go through, you get your car, you have your hand, and now you start the race. In the race, you are going to have 3 different spots where you're going to bid. So this is where it gets more interesting, because as you're going through the race, you're going to start to get a general sense of who looks like they're starting to pull to the lead, who's probably going to finish first. So you get to bid on a car, who you think's going to place. Now you might want to go all in on yourself, because you know, I didn't spend a lot of money, I have money already, I'm going to try to get my car across first place gets good money, and if I bid on myself on all 3 bidding spots, there's no way I can lose. This literally means I win and I win. Or you might say, I want to hedge my bets. You know, I see that green and blue are keeping up with my orange car, so I'm going to bet on green on the first one because, you know, green looks like they're right there. I'm betting blue on the second one. They look pretty strong. Alright, I've kept my strongest cards. I'm betting on myself in the last round because it looks like I can pull this out. There are other times where you might be going all out and you realize I need to not bid on myself because this other person's bid on me twice already. And if I bid on myself in the last round and I win, I can't win. They're going to win. So instead, I need to bid on the second car and I need to sabotage myself. And you might have to go for that type of plan. So it's a really interesting setup. Not only for the figuring out how to bid, figuring out who to get for your cars, figuring out who you want to bid on to win as you go through each quarter of the lap, but also figuring out how to block people. Because if you're coming up to a tight space and you see, okay, normally we have 4 spaces across, but we're about to hit a 3er and then a 2er, and it's going to be a tough tunnel right here. You might have cards that can help you set it up so that you go, okay, I move myself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I move blue 1, 2, 3. Now black 1, 2, they all of a sudden block together. Now the next car, pops here, and now you're just hoping, depending on the order of what they have in their hand, yellow and green are left behind. They have to get through this tunnel that's been blocked. They can't. They're going to have to stop when they hit that tunnel spot. So you're trying to jam people up. So there's ways to take advantage of the terrain as well. Well, that's the game, but why don't we jump in? Let's talk our 7 categories and see where this game lands for us. When it comes to the art, I actually like the front of the box. Again, I'm not a big racing fan, but this has a lot of color. It gets across the point of not only the IP, it being a racing game, but the game itself. You feel it. When you pull the game out, it's got a great racing track. The cards and everything else are just, they're a good general feel for what you're playing. It does a good job of selling itself, and if you're into a racing game and you pass this game when it's set up at a convention, you're going to stop, you're going to watch, and you'll be intrigued. So for me, it does its job. Thumbs up. Your components. So you're going to get really good cards. There's no worry here. The cards are good. They're not going to rip easily. You know, I think they could wear through time, but this isn't a game where you're going to be having these cards like a deck of cards. It's going to take a lot of just non-stop playing to really wear these cards. That's why they don't need to be that next level up, because they realize for a game like this, it's not getting the beating it would normally get. You don't need a top tier card. Having a lower tier card here is acceptable because of the play style of the game. So that works for me fine. And then your cards themselves, they tend to be a nice little plastic. You know, there's no wheels for these because they don't want them flying everywhere. They want them to move. So it's all just a plastic, but it's really well painted. It's great across the board. Thumbs up. Your price. Price for this game is about $40. It's a good price. I think this game is a fun one. I think this game is one that if you have, you know, a dad that you want to have play, you know, a game with you, and he's a big racing fan, but he doesn't tend to like board games, this might be a game to introduce him through. You know, he doesn't have to know a lot. It's not too much. It's just a general sense of money, betting, and racing. It tends to be three things that a lot of adults know. So I think that it's a great game for helping people outside of it that you like. Try to have a way to bring them in because it's a good type of IP. It's a good theme. But on top of that, I think that for those who like board games, it's a good game. I don't like racing, and yet I do enjoy this game despite not going after racing games normally. So for me, I think that when it comes to that price, it's worth it because it's going to bring plenty of people in. Thumbs up. Your difficulty. So I think kids can play this. I think beginners can play. I think experienced can play. And I think experts won't get bored. They may not find it to be massively engaging, but it's not boring. It's a thumbs up. Replayability. I'm to the point where with this game, when I play, I actually tell my friends, let's play it 3 times in a row, and we'll add the 3 games together to get the score. Because I find it to be really boring if you only do 1 game at a time, because it is so replayable. And I'm like, well, why do 3 separate wins if we could just have 1 big win? So we do kind of a competition of seasons. And I think this game can be played multiple times in a row, and it's a game that you can easily pull out once a month. So to me, thumbs up. Keys to victory. So the keys to victory are about judging your hand well enough to know what cards you should go after or you shouldn't go after, judging how to bid, seeing the setup of the board, where are the cards. Hey, has somebody used their 6 already? That's a card that's kind of falling behind and they're trying to catch up. They may not be worth investing any bids in. You know, just because somebody's in the front doesn't mean that they're dominating. They might be in the front because they used all their big cards early and they're hoping to hold that front spot. Compared to somebody that's in second or third, and you're like, well, they're in second or third. They're not far behind first, but they still have easily a 6 in their hand. And I don't know what else they have, but they've only been using 2s and 3s. They've been getting pushed because other people's cards are pushing them. So I think that there's plenty of keys here. Thumbs up. Is the game unique? I would love to give it unique. It's not in my collection, and if it was, it would be a unique one in my collection. But in general, I can't because it's a racing game. And I've seen plenty of other games that do things kind of like this, even if it's not completely. You know, Badass Riders had a sense of racing. There's a new game out called Heat, about not overheating your car while you're racing. They have different ways of doing it, but the general push sense and the way that you're trying to get your car, get to the end, it's been done. So while I like this game, and while I think that it's, for me, the one I prefer, it is not unique. Thumbs down. Overall, what do I think? I think this is a great game. I think if you like racing, get it. I think if you like board games and you're not generally a racer, try it. And maybe it'll hit for you. Well, it has been day 301. We've been speaking about the game Downforce. And you've been speaking to the Meeples champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. And don't forget, check out BoardGameArena.com where you can find me under the name The Meeples Champion. Friend me, ask me to play a game. Happy to play with anybody out there. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.